Muchachos y muchachas. So the Ghislaine Maxwell-Epstein saga seems to still continue, as there is new information that does come out if you have the eyes to look for it. So we all know now that she is a now convicted sex trafficker, 5 out of 6 counts. And with that being said, this was just revealed today that Vicky Ward, who was a star journalist at Vanity Fair, actually planned on running a different story other than the one that Vanity Fair forced her to run on Epstein. And it is now revealed today that because of their hand and their force against her investigative story on some of the witness accusers that had a lot to say, they actually scrubbed the story, made her publish something else, and Ghislaine Maxwell actually showed up at a Vanity Fair party shortly after that. It's all strange. Stay right there. We're going to go through it. A new study is highlighting some important facts about our wrinkles. In this study, women were asked how their mood would change if they looked younger. 31% of these women said that they feel more confident, while 15% said they would feel more like themselves. 11% said they feel more relaxed, while 9% said they'd be happier. Our confidence is sometimes directly tied to our appearance. Unfortunately, wrinkles and sagging skin can hold us back from reaching our true happiness we deserve. This is why I highly recommend Glow with Natly. I couldn't believe how effective this rejuvenating serum really was when I first started using it. Within no time, my skin felt smoother and firmer. It's the only anti-aging serum I've ever used that truly works for me. If you want to help restoring your youthful glow, you'll love Glow with Natly. Get up to 38% off in the next 24 hours by going to glowwithnatly.com or by clicking the link below. Okay, now that we're back, let's dig into some of these details because there's a lot to cover here, and I'm going to try to fit everything that I can. So, Ghislaine Maxwell, coming from the New York Post, she attended a Vanity Fair party after the expose on Epstein was scrubbed and killed. Now, I want to remind you guys also that Ghislaine Maxwell was in the higher echelon circles of the elite. We learned from previous stories that she was able to wince through, different charity events and supper clubs and, all these Manhattan Circle type things, because of her status, I would assume. But she was also able to get into premieres and parties, such as this Vanity Fair one. This was shortly after an expose on Epstein was killed. And let's dig into some of these details. Ghislaine Maxwell yucked it up with celebrities at the Vanity Fair Oscar party years after the magazine killed an expose detailing her role in aiding Jeffrey Epstein, pedophile filing cabinet, Jeffrey Epstein, his abuse of girls. The 60-year-old madame was photographed in a glam, sparkly evening dress at the party in West Hollywood in March of 2014. Maxwell was shown grinning widely in a series of photos at the event, hugging one guest in a suit. I think that's Harvey Weinstein, if I'm not mistaken, but I could be wrong. Beside the world's richest man, Elon Musk, who later insisted that he was actually photobombed in that picture, that he wasn't actually taking a picture with her, which I don't know if that's true or not, but that's what he says. The party was thrown by Vanity Fair's then editor-in-chief, Graydon Carter. Hold on to that name, Graydon Carter, who'd also been at the helm of the 2002 when the mag refused to run an interview with Annie Farmer, one of the 4 accusers whose testimony led to Maxwell's recent sex trafficking conviction. So Annie Farmer was one of the 4. The other 3 were actually placed under pseudonym. I believe it was Jane. I'm not going to try to remember. I think it was Jane, Kate, and Carolyn, if I'm not mistaken. But there were other 3 pseudonym testimonies, and Annie Farmer decided to go as herself. So let me just recap here. So Vicky Ward was the star journalist who interviewed Annie Farmer back in 2002. Now, her intention with her journalistic investigation was to do an expose kind of in the style that the Miami Herald did, that did resurface this entire saga back into the public's view. The magazine's then star journalist, Vicky Ward, last week revealed a transcript of Maxwell's she was angrily demanding that Vanity Fair nix the interview from a piece on Epstein. Ward noted how Epstein also paid a visit to Graydon Carter at the Vanity Fair offices before the article was scrubbed, killed off the internet. Months later, the magazine instead wrote a society profile titled "The Talented Mr. Epstein," starting with a glowing praise about the charming, enigmatic, and very generous multimillionaire. So this here, yes, and it does brag about certain things that actually backfired and incriminated Epstein and Maxwell. But this is actually the piece that they're talking about. This is the one that was published in 2003. So, she intended a completely different piece on, the witness accusers or the witness, who had these details to expose on Epstein. But instead, Vanity Fair, the magazine, actually, what it seems to be through this new information, scrubbed the entire piece and instead forced Vicky Ward to run this piece instead. So you can just hear it here in the first introduction, where it sort of tries to praise and exonerate Epstein as this, single bachelor rubbing elbows with important people. Listen to this. And this is back in 2003, remind you. Lately, Jeffrey Epstein's high-flying style has been drawing oohs and ahs. The bachelor financier lives in New York's largest private residence, claims to take only billionaires as clients, and flies celebrities including Bill Clinton, Kevin Spacey on his Boeing 727, but pierce his air of mystery and the picture changes. Vicky Ward explores Epstein's investment career, his ties to retail magnate Leslie Wexner, and his complicated past. So you see how they sort of like spun this, and mind you, it was Vicky Ward who did it, but I would have to imagine in a graceful view that she was actually forced to do this, versus the story that she was actually going to run. So she had to spin the story that Epstein was this like fascinating character. He was a bachelor living in New York, and he rubbed elbows with very important people. All right, so taking it back. So it talks about that. Epstein would go on to plead guilty on soliciting sex from a minor in 2008 and later be charged with sex trafficking, including of underage girls, before the thing happened in his cell. That's what I'm going to call it. So I'm going to take you to this now. This was actually published a few days ago before the new year rang in. Vicky Ward actually came out and publicly made these transcripts available showing that Ghislaine Maxwell actually approached her about not running this story. And she's showing that Maxwell was lying habitually over and over to try to kill the story itself. So this is what she has to say. It's over. The chapter of the Jeffrey Epstein saga, at least. Maxwell has been convicted of 5 counts out of 6 that constitute hideous sex crimes against children. She was reportedly emotionless as she heard the verdict and the mystery of what is going on inside of her head. Continued on, we never got to hear from Maxwell herself this whole trial. Her defense's strategy was to undermine the credibility of the accusers, not to explain her narrative. So I went back and looked over the transcript of my 2002 interview with Maxwell about Maria and Annie Farmer, the latter, who so bravely testified a couple of weeks ago. It was the one and only conversation I had with her on the topic of Annie and Maria Farmer. It's very revealing because it tells us in her own words who Maxwell really is and what she values. It also shows that she lied to me about not giving Annie Farmer a massage. Here for the first time is our conversation, which is transcribed on the micro cassettes from a professional transcription service. The only redaction is the name of an employee who worked at Zorro Ranch, Epstein's home in New Mexico. So here we go. And, Vicky Ward, I just want to imply before reading out these transcripts that she believes that this actually should have been part of the trial. For whatever reason, it was left out, but these are the transcripts here. This is Vicky Ward. She says, hi. Maxwell says, hi, listen, I just got something from the fact checker at Vanity Fair. So meaning that, somebody infiltrated in Vanity Fair, actually outed some of Vicky's work. You understand? So Vanity Fair had somebody on the inside tipping this off to Maxwell. So listen to this. Hi, listen, I just got something from the fact checker at Vanity Fair. The implication of which is so outrageous and disgusting to me that I cannot understand for the life of me why you would put something like that in it and not even overlap in Audible. Ward then replies, Vicky Ward replies, because sorry, I'm out of breath because this is what they have said on the record. Maxwell then replies, but Vicky, it is so repellent and disgusting to me and so thoroughly and absolutely untrue in the every respect in every which way. That is beyond even, I just can't even think how to respond to something so horrible. The implication is thoroughly outrageous, thoroughly untrue, and every which way disgusting. And I cannot be party to anything like that. These are two girls that benefited greatly from Jeffrey's generosity, and absolutely nothing untoward in any stretch of the imagination ever took place with them. And the implication of what you're saying is something, and then it says it's inaudible. Vicky Ward then replies, no, it's not. It's not what I'm saying. It's what they're saying. Maxwell replies, Vicky, you're repeating it. It's like the lowest thing the tabloid does. It's so untrue. Vicky Ward replies, no, well, this is why. It's what they say. Maxwell then says something inaudible, and Vicky Ward replies, it's what they say. And we have come to you and say, if it's not true, number one, can you help us? Can you show us that it's not true? And I'm going to pause right here, but that's typically is the way of generic investigative journalism. When someone says, hey, that's not true, that's a conspiracy theory, then it is the onus of that person who's saying it's not true to prove it against it. Look, I have a receipt. This is what happened. This is actually the timeline. This is what this person was provided for at this time. These are all things that Ghislaine Maxwell could have provided to Vicky Ward, but it seems to be that she did not. So then continued, Maxwell said, it's not true. It's absolutely not true. It is not. There's not even anything in it. You can talk to everybody who comes to the ranch or gets a massage. You've spoken to Marty Novak. You've spoken to Redacted, which is, again, reminder, this is an employee of Zorro Ranch, so they redacted it. Why don't you call them and ask them? Every single person who comes to the ranch gets a massage, and I can assure you I have never given a massage, nor am I about to. I have better things to do with my time. Vicky Ward then says, well, can we not say that? And Maxwell says, can you not say that? Vicky Ward says, can we not say in this piece? Maxwell says, are you crazy? Vicky, I'm not responding to two girls who are making stupid allegations that you want to print. Like, Vicky Ward says, well, no, you have to understand. I've heard and listened to with great respect everything that I've been told about these girls. And I have, gone off to ask people, not just the art world, but business people who know them for their character references. So it sounds to me that Vicky Ward was actually making her checks in the sphere of these characters. So it was, in this case, Annie and Maria Farmer, who are sisters. Annie Farmer is the one who testified in court against Ghislaine Maxwell. So what this sounds to me like is, when you do character checks like this, you want to go from different perspectives and different spheres of their life. So you can check with friends, you can check with business workers, you can check with, maybe coworkers. And if they all individually in an isolated, session, describe the same thing, that this person is good, this person is honest, or, vice versa, this person has been deceitful before, this person has, said bad things about other people, they have been accusatory, then, if each person from different perspectives and different walks of life say the same thing about this particular person, well, then you can account that the most consistent thing is witness corroboration and witness testimonies to that person's character. So this is what Vicky Ward was doing on the account of Annie and Maria Farmer, it sounds. So that's what she said. It's not just the art world, but business people who know them for character references. Maxwell then replies, but I don't care what business people say, Vicky. All I can tell you is the implications. And then it says inaudible. I'm just going to assume she says it's not true. Okay. And I will not. And Vicky Ward says, yeah, but Maxwell cuts her off and says, and they're absolutely thoroughly not right. Thoroughly something, because it's inaudible, and just not true in any way, shape, or form. There's just nothing about that I like, nothing that I want to be part of, and nothing, it's rubbish, and I I won't have it. I won't. It's absolutely not right. These are just two girls, who want to make up stories. It's not my problem if they want to go making up stories. They benefited hugely from this man. And how come? And Vicky Ward says, well, if you give them massages, and Maxwell says, every Tom, Dick, and Harry who's gone to say some story. You know what? I'm whizzing around in your life. I can come up with thousands of stories which are rubbish. So anyway, they just go back and forth, and it's the same theme. Maxwell seems to play some sort of word salad, which, she doesn't really give any meat and potatoes to debunk any of the findings or any of the investigations. And Vicky Ward is just really replying and defending her work in doing all these excavations of the truth. So then we fast forward, and Vicky Ward then summarizes. So there you have it in full. Just as Maxwell insisted, her false denials condemn her most as much as credible testimony of Annie Farmer, which I believed then as now, and which is entitled to be told, and all the others. After my call with Maxwell, I submitted my story to the bosses at Vanity Fair with the Farmer's descriptions of events and the general denial from Epstein and Maxwell included. I did my journalistic duty. Tell both sides of this ugly story, as well as taught from day one. Journalism sends the readers to decide, but Vanity Fair had other plans. There was no subsequent conversation between Maxwell and myself because shortly with my interview with Farmer's sisters and the follow-up, Maxwell Epstein paid a visit to Graydon Carter, who, remember, I told you to remember that name. That is the, I believe, like the jefe of Vanity Fair at the time, at Vanity Fair offices. So Epstein paid a visit to the jefe, Graydon Carter, and the allegations were cut from the article and subsequent blog, to my eternal regret. I have felt deeply for the Farmers ever since. Carter has said that I didn't have sufficient reporting, and I disagree. I don't know why Vanity Fair decided not to include the Farmers sisters' allegations, in the 2003 story. As a journalist, I am trained to report what credible people tell me or what other evidence supports, and that's just what I had done. I don't know what happened behind closed doors, so I can't say that anything untoward happened there. I just know that what didn't happen, the allegations never ran. I finally did get their story out to the Daily Beast in 2015, but that was 12 years too late. But their conversation shows that Maxwell's entitlement and her belief that money trumps all. It was crazy that I would believe strangers over her, and that the report on record allegations. It was also outrageous to think that she would have time to give people massages, and how lucky these two girls to benefit from Epstein's generosity. Right there, this conversation is everything you need to know, that this narrative that was missing from the courtroom these past weeks, but did not validate the jury's verdict. So it then goes into some trial closing arguments made by 𝘿𝑗𝑐𝐸, which just kind of says, trust your common sense judgment, and, all these things, in which they did reach the correct verdict, and we're all glad for that. But this just goes to show that, there were several instances that seem to be that Maxwell lied to the press, lied to people who are very powerful, and even was able to manipulate them to do the wrong thing like this and pull a story, but went further to not just pull the story, but also invite her to the upper echelons of the elite, events and premiere parties and Oscar parties, which is very significant because she was able to also mingle with a lot more other stars. So this is, I almost forgot to mention about not just the fashion magazine, because Vanity Fair is more of like a culture and fashion type of magazine, but also the connections that Jeffrey Epstein had within the fashion and modeling world, because he was very embedded with, I believe it was Ford Models. I think so. Yeah, I think he founded or funded to found modeling agencies. I want to say several, but he was also good friends with like the jefe there. So they were very indebted with these industries and had a lot of access to high and powerful people in these industries. Pretty significant, some new information. I thought you would know that, Vanity Fair had some piece in pulling a story that could have been very significant a lot earlier. With that being said, I hope you guys enjoyed this. Thank you so much for watching this video. Thank you so much for supporting this channel, for liking, sharing, and subscribing. I appreciate you all. And I will catch you guys in the next episode. Have a great night.